James Bond drove a lot of cars, but there is only one model automobile that you can truly say is the authentic Bond brand that appeared in both the books and the movies. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Oh, I know you say this is super easy, but is it? So fasten your seatbelts, sit back, brace yourselves for a controversial Bond brand take on PCZ TV. PCZ TV. Okay, sorry for the clickbaity intro, but what do I mean by Bond's authentic auto? We all know that some brands are part and parcel of the Bond experience, and shouldn't any inclusion be considered canon? Well, for the purposes of this thought experiment, we're going to apply two rules. Our first criteria is only those brands and models which overlap between the books of Ian Fleming and the Bond movies. The second criteria is that Bond actually drove the vehicle. So let's find this holy automotive grail, shall we? Now, before we begin, let's apply these rules to other categories and see what happens. For instance, pistols. The Walther brand is heavily used in the Bond universe, with many different models appearing in many different movies. However, when looking at the books, we see that it's only the Walther PPK that was ever mentioned by name.
You'll carry the Walther. Unless, of course, you prefer to go back to standard intelligence duties.
No, sir. I would not.
Then from now on, you carry a different gun. Show him, Amra.
Walther PPK.
And the PPK is the iconic model that every Bond actor has carried. So the brand and model overlap between book and movie. Therefore, it is the legitimate Bond pistol. Quick aside, ironically, the Walther PPK is first seen in both the book Dr. No as well as the movie. Example 2. Let's contrast this with vodka. In the books, Bond drinks Wolfschmidt, and that's the only brand mentioned. But in the movies, he drinks a variety of brands, none of which are Wolfschmidt. So there is literally zero overlap between the books and the movies. Therefore, there is no legitimate Bond vodka brand. All right, so now we understand the ground rules in this thought experiment. Let's apply it to cars. The easiest first filter is to start with eliminating some of the movie brands which never showed up in Fleming's books. So in alphabetical order we have AMC, an American brand, but with only one appearance in the movies. And to be fair, AMC was not exactly a huge brand in the era of Fleming. One and done. So, nope. Next, BMW, a major German firm that had 3 movie appearances, a BMW Z3, a BMW 750, and a BMW Z8. But mentioned in the books? Nope. Citroën, another classic European firm, had but one appearance. Mentioned in the books? Nope. Ford, one of the truly great global brands. It was seen in Diamonds Are Forever and in Casino Royale. Oh, as a reminder, we are not counting the times the brand or models were shown in the movies and were not driven by Mr. Bond. However, they were driven by some of the most beautiful Bond women, and for that alone they got honorable mention. And trivia fact, Ford once owned Aston Martin. Oh, I'm sorry. Mentioned in the books? Nope. Land Rover, that quintessential English off-road machine as seen in the apocryphal movie No Time to Die. Shite movie, awesome truck. But mentioned in the books? Nope. Quick aside, Land Rover is now owned by Tata, an Indian company. Finally, moving on to the world's largest automotive company, Toyota. In the first appearance, Bond doesn't actually drive the car, but it's such a cool machine from that era, I thought I'd include it anyway. What he does drive is a Land Cruiser Prado in No Time to Die. Why a Prado? For the same reason all Australians drive them, because they're effing reliable. Mentioned in the books? Nope. Okay, so far, lots of rejects, but what about James Bond's British brands? You know, Rule Britannia? Let's filter on country of origin then. After all, Bond is English and leverages English brands. Well, Fleming highlighted 3 brands. And the movies also had 3 English brands. So let's examine this further. Bond's personal car in the books was a 31 Bentley 4.5-liter blower. This model was, shall we say, obsolete when Fleming was writing the books. It's a pre-war relic, ready for coffee and cars.
Where's my Bentley?
Oh, it's had its day, I'm afraid.
But it's never let me down.
M's orders, 007.
Some side notes. A Bentley is no longer British, but the brand is now owned by VW.
I'm sorry! No!
And Patrick Macnee, who was in a Bond movie, had a TV character, John Steed, who drove a blower Bentley in The Avengers. In fact, he was one of 3 lead Avenger actors to appear in James Bond movies. And not the only 3 actors or crew, if Avengers TV is to be believed. I wonder if there's some shared universe there.
Coincidence? I think not!
And finally, Bentley has had a multi-year partnership with watchmaker Breitling, the competitor to Omega. Dare we say arch nemesis? Now, by contrast, in some of the movies, Bond drives a Lotus. He piloted in Esprit and For Your Eyes Only and in The Spy Who Loved Me. But meanwhile, Fleming never wrote about Lotus. Probably because they didn't start making complete cars for commercial sales until the late 60s after his death. On a side note, Lotus is now owned by Geely, a Chinese company.
It's not true. That's impossible!
So now we're left with 2 brands, both with book and movie pedigree. Now, as a reminder, the final decision will be based on brand and model. Again, not unlike what we did with Walther and the PPK. So game over, super easy, right? But Paul, you say there is no more iconic car than the Aston Martin DB5.
You'll be using this Aston Martin DB5 with modifications. Now, pay attention, please.
Why, it's been used by 3 Bonds. Count them. 3 Bonds. And it's appeared in the novel and movie Goldfinger. Well, you're wrong, because you're focusing on just the brand, not the brand and model. In the novel, Bond drives a DB3, not the DB5. That's like confusing the DB3 with a DB9. Please. Same brand, different model. Okay, so by the way, who owns Aston now? It's complicated. It's kind of Canadian and Saudi and Chinese and German. That sounds like a really interesting restaurant, to be honest with you. So is it English? Not so much. So that leaves just a sole survivor. 1 brand and model left that can fit the bill. And have you guessed it yet? It's an English brand that started in the early days of the automobile in 1905. It set world speed records. It won its class in Le Mans. It has a rabid, albeit small, following in the US today. And it's also a dead brand. Hint? Not unlike the Walther PPK, the key to this riddle is Dr. No. Have you guessed yet? I'm, of course, talking about Sunbeam. You know, Sunbeam. Or more specifically, the Sunbeam Alpine. Sir Sean Connery drove this model on Dr. No and drove it oh so convincingly, I might add. And it is specifically called out by Fleming in the novel Dr. No. Oh, Nitpickers may say it's the wrong color between the movies and the books, black in the novel and blue in the movie, but it's the same brand and model. Now, I won't go over the brand history, but some of you may know this car from the infamous Carroll Shelby conversion, the Sunbeam Tiger. But the Alpine is a delightful little sporty four-cylinder. It's a bit more sophisticated than the other small English sports cars of the era. It's definitely worthy of the Johnny Lightning version. Now, the brand Sunbeam went through a variety of owners, finally being purchased by Chrysler Corporation, who retired the IP in 1981. Fun fact, this is the only James Bond car I owned, or could afford to own, actually. I miss that little car. Anyway, I maintain that the Sunbeam Alpine is the only true and authentic Bond car. Are you surprised by this? It's a melding of both book and film. Want to see more trivia about Bond? Then check out some of these other amazing videos. You want to rage and tell me I'm wrong? Feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. And if you've been watching this far, I thank you. And now, my disclaimers.
Bye.